let's say he can buy 5 minutes a game where he's the guy bringing the ball up the court and Peterson can slide off the ball a little bit and not have to expend as much energy and attention on that part of it, then he's worth it. The value is there.
Pay heed all who enter and beware this podcast. That's right. This is the Pay Heed podcast on the Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Nick Springer, and of course, I'm here with Kevin Flaherty. We're brought to you by Emprise Bank, your partner in all things possible, member FDIC. And today we're going to be talking about a little Kansas basketball, some positive updates and some not so positive updates from KU over the past couple of days. We'll dive into that a little bit about what it means and maybe where things go for KU from here after the conclusion of summer workouts. But of course, if you're looking for KU football content, you need to look no further. We've got tons of it on our feed already. We talked about on Thursday, the first day of fall camp, reacting to that. Had a chance to hear from Lance Leipold, Jalen Daniels, along with Dean Miller. And we will be continuing to talk about fall camp throughout the next 3.5 weeks or so, leading up to the start of the season, in which Kansas will kick off week 0 against Fresno State. So we also had a chance to break down every game for Kansas on their schedule, all 12 games. You can look back at any of those episodes. We broke them down into 3-game segments or 3-game shows. So there's 4 shows total of each of the 3 games, starting non-conference, opening a conference, next 3, and then the final 3. So if you're curious to hear our takes on any of that before fall camp, you can check out those shows as well. You'll absolutely want to stay subscribed on Apple, Spotify, and over on our YouTube channel for some video content as well. And also you can follow us on social media at KCSN for wonderful semi-blurry pictures of fall camp, thanks to Kevin and myself, as we're having a chance to mess with our photography skills and find out that there's a reason we are talking heads and not photographers. So don't ask me for photograph advice, because I won't know what to tell you. So as I said, some updates on Kansas basketball. We weren't intending to talk about Kansas basketball, really. They just wrapped up summer workouts. Not really much to speak about on the Kansas basketball front at the conclusion of summer workouts, but some pretty significant breaking news happened on Thursday night. We were recording this on Friday afternoon. On Thursday night around 7 p.m., I'll just read the statement. Kansas Athletics put out a statement saying that Kansas men's basketball coach Bill Self felt unwell and experienced some concerning symptoms Thursday. He was transported to Lawrence Memorial Hospital, where he had 2 stents inserted. The procedure went very well, and he's expected to make a full recovery. He is in good spirits and expects to be released from the hospital soon. That was the official Kansas Athletics statement on Thursday night. Around 7 p.m. is when that came out. So obviously very concerning. And first and foremost, our biggest priority would be the health of Bill Self and to make sure that he is okay. That statement made it seem very positive that he is going to be making a recovery and expect to be released from the hospital soon. But obviously a very concerning situation. Immediately you think back to a similar situation that occurred in 2023 with Bill Self and his health leading into the NCAA tournament. Of course, Norm Roberts then ended up taking over control of the team at that time before Kansas lost in the second round against Arkansas as a 1 seed. And so now you have a second incident with Bill Self. So certainly I think first and foremost, Kevin, like I said, the biggest priority is just his health and making sure that he and his family are okay after this incident.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, basketball stuff is all secondary at this point. Just take care of yourself, get yourself back to full health, and on the show we'll be thinking of you and praying for you and hoping that everything goes well in recovery. And then basketball stuff is obviously secondary to anything.
Yeah, and considering the circumstances right now, really there's not much basketball stuff to be worried about at this point.
Yeah.
Obviously still, almost 3 months from the season, or almost 2 months from the season at this point. So certainly we want to wish Bill Self a fast recovery, and I think there will be a time to have more conversations about what this could mean in terms of the basketball side for Kansas, but it doesn't really feel prudent to do that at the moment, especially so quickly after this announcement from Kansas. And first, just making sure that Coach Self is going to be all right is our main priority. So I think we'll probably just leave it at that for now and kind of put a bow on that and maybe circle back to it if there's more details, more information about it. It doesn't really feel like it's the right time to speculate, I think, on on different possibilities relating to the situation. So we'll probably just leave it at that for now. So that was Thursday night. And then on Friday afternoon, as we record, some more news came out relating to Kansas basketball. And that was that KU did land another commitment. And Bill Self, when he met with the media actually on Monday, had somewhat alluded to this possibility. We had talked about it as well, Kevin, on the show that after the addition of Paul Mbaya, Kansas had 12 players and still feasibly was in a position to add another player. And then Bill Self went into a little bit more depth on Monday morning when he spoke with the media about it, suggesting that that KU was in the market possibly for a player that could run the point and sort of run the team as well for some extra depth there, because we love Darian Peterson. We expect him to play obviously 35 plus minutes per game, probably each night. You have Marco Jackson as well, but you think about a guy like Jaden Dawson, who's probably not really a true point guard. You think about a guy like Melvin Counsell, who certainly is not. So maybe an opportunity to shore up that area for Kansas is what Bill Self had in mind. And he kind of basically said as much on Monday. And then sure enough, comes out on Friday afternoon that Kansas has added a player that sort of checks all those boxes in Ginyu Ngala. He is from Canada originally. And this is a very interesting player with, unfortunately, not a lot of real hard data on him in terms of what his career has been. I do know that he played 5 years, or he played 4 years, I believe, at what would be the equivalent of Canada's, I guess, NCAA for lack of a better term. Played 3 seasons and then eventually played another season at a different school in Canada. He's an older player, more veteran player. I believe he's 25 or about to be 26 years old. So certainly putting the veteran in veteran player when you talk about him from an age standpoint. I guess that's kind of where the state of college athletics is nowadays. But yeah, played 3 seasons in Canada at the Canadian U Sports College Basketball System, I guess would be the best way to call it. Played in Halifax, Nova Scotia for 3 seasons, and then played in Montreal in his most recent stint. He was also named to his conference's All-Star team in 2024-25 after the conclusion of that season. He scored almost 15 points per game, shot just under 40% from 3, and averaged 4.6 rebounds per game. And then I guess I'm kind of underselling the headline here, Kevin, is that he's also 5'10", so another shorter player that you can add in. I've got as I'm sure many KU fans do, you're probably involved in group text messages with other KU fans, as am I with some of my old college buddies. And one of them, in response to this news coming out, Kevin texted me and said that you can take him away, but you cannot kill his vibe. And that is obviously in reference to David Coit, who was previously on this Kansas team. And so David Coit, I guess, reincarnated somewhat as Ginyu Ngala, who was added to the team. What do you think this means for KU as they had this player in July?
Yeah, and you nailed the pronunciation, by the way. It's Ginyu, like you don't pronounce the N on the first word. That's according to listening to him say it. Ginyu Ngala goes by G in some interviews. So if you don't want to practice it, you don't want to ruin it, call him G. But yeah, very, very similar to Diggy in that, shorter point guard, a lot of experience, and maybe a little bit similar, Nick, in that I think a lot of people looking into last season didn't see a big role for Diggy, right? They looked at it and said, okay, here's a break glass in case of emergency guy. He's a shoot first, lead guard. I don't know that Ginyu is super shoot first, but is a shorter point guard, does have experience, like you said, playing the point. The other thing that Self had said that he wanted sort of on his wish list, wanted a backup point guard, wanted a guy that could shoot, and he made over 39% of his threes, I think, last year. That would certainly qualify. And so getting somebody who can run that point guard spot, who is a quote-unquote true point guard, because I think we see Marco Jackson as a little bit of a combo, Melvin Counsell can maybe run it at times, but is more of a combo / wing. Having a guy where it's like, hey, your role is point guard, not anything else. You play point guard, and if you need that kind of guy to come in and run your offense, think about how much Kansas struggled at times when DeJuan Harris went to the bench this year. And DeJuan Harris didn't have, a terrific year, but the offense kind of struggled to generate shots when he went out. And I think that was one of the things that Self was looking for. I believe he used the specific words, knows how to run a team, was something that he was looking for. And so in those rare moments where Darren Peterson is not on the court, I think he's somebody that can come in. And the other thing is with how big Darren Peterson is, you can play him alongside a guy like this where you can relieve maybe a little bit of that ball handling burden, bringing the ball up the court, different things like that for a few minutes here and there too. A lot of times, Nick, you look at a player like this and you say it's strictly break glass in case of emergency or injuries or whatever else. And then a lot of times that emergency happens or a different scenario happens, and that guy winds up playing a little bit more than you think. And I think that was certainly the case a year ago with Diggy Coy.
Yeah, I do want to unpack a little bit more of what you said and where Ngala fits in and what his role may be and all that stuff. But let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about Ngala coming up next. Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
I'm BJ Kissel, founder and CEO of KC Sports Network. Emprise Bank has been with us from the beginning. They were our first network partner, and they believed in the vision of what we were building from the start. I can't speak to any other banks or companies and how they operate, but I can tell you from personal experience and based on the growth of the network you're listening to right now, that if you have banking needs, call our friends at Emprise Bank. We've worked with so many great people there over the years, from Vicky and Aggie to Andrea, Lori, Jackie, Deb, and Aaron, and not to mention so many others that not just supported KC Sports Network, but supported our KCSN Foundation as well. But the best thing that I know is that if I have a question or a problem, no matter how dumb the question is, I know who I'm going to call and who I'm going to talk to. And I know that I'm getting an answer from someone that I can trust. And I know that person is there to help us. That's why Emprise Bank has always been and continues to be our partner in Possible. And they can be yours too. You just have to reach out. If you have a banking need, whether it's business or personal, hit me up. I will connect you directly with the same people that have helped us build KCSN. And that's our friends at Emprise Bank.
Folks, there's nothing that beats relaxing on a hot summer day and watching some baseball. And there's no simpler way to get in on the action than by downloading the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. And the best part, Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on the fun. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6, and right now, new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Here's what you got to do. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Bonus picks expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
This is the Paid Podcast on Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Nick Springer, along with Kevin Flaherty. We're brought to you by Emprise Bank, your partner in all things possible, member FDIC. Once again, I'll say it as every time on the show. Please subscribe, Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts and wherever you get your KU content, because we are going to be producing a lot of it over the course of the next 3 weeks and leading into the start of the Kansas football season. We'll be talking plenty about fall camp. If you already missed it, we have a show up talking about our reactions to day 1 of fall camp on Thursday, so check that out. You want to stay subscribed on YouTube because we're going to be doing some live post-game shows after KU football games over the course of the season, and we will be talking plenty more of Kansas football. On today's show, though, obviously talking Kansas basketball, a little bit about Bill Self to start the show, and then Ginu Ngala is the latest commitment to the Kansas roster. He brings the total for KU up to 13 scholarship players. I wanted to sort of continue the conversation with what you had been talking about before the break, Kevin, which is what his role may be.
Sure.
And you talked a lot about David Coit. I think it's reasonable to sort of look at this as a comparison to David Coit, just because of the timing of the addition, similar to Coit last season. Obviously, the position, both of them playing that position, both of them being more undersized type guards. But I will say this, and I think you are right in your assessment of this, Kevin. Ngala feels to me less of just a straight up, hey, we're going to bring this guy in to shoot threes, and more of a guy that could come in and actually be a ball handler and run the offense. And we saw Diggy Coit do, I think, a little bit of that. But I mean, let's be honest. I mean, with Diggy Coit on the roster last year, it was when he comes in the game, the expectation is get him the ball so he can shoot.
Yeah.
I think with Ngala, there's going to be a little bit more flexibility of what he can do and what could offer for this roster. And I'll be curious to see how much he does end up playing, right? Because as you said, with Darren Peterson, the expectation is he's going to be playing 35 plus minutes per game. And the expectation is that he's going to probably be the primary ball handler for a significant majority of that time that he's playing. And then you have Marco Jackson as well, who can probably handle it. But I think really for me, Kevin, the two questions, or the two, I guess, points that I want to make here with Ngala in terms of what his role could be is I almost wonder how much of it is dependent on Marco Jackson, in the sense of if Marco Jackson is taking a big step forward in the offseason, and if he's able to step into a more confident role. Bill Self talked about him as well on Monday, talking about how athletically he's back to where he was prior to his patellar tendon injury, but that he still needs the game to slow down for him, right? And I think if we see a more confident Marco Jackson, now Marco Jackson that is feeling ready to handle the offense more, then I think Ngala's role may be more diminished, versus if Marco Jackson maybe does, I don't think struggle is the right term, but maybe just doesn't fully grow into that primary ball handler role off of Darren Peterson. If it's not Darren Peterson, then that's where you could see Ngala be maybe utilized more 4KU. And so that almost makes me wonder if it's a possibility. I know that he's arriving in July, and so he's going to be obviously missed out on some workouts and all that stuff. But I almost wonder if this is a player, Kevin, that maybe he's a guy that we actually see a little bit more to start the year because of the fact that he could be more the secondary ball handler behind Darren Peterson. But then if we do see Marco Jackson continue to grow, that role maybe diminishes a little bit more as the season goes on.
Sure. Don't forget Diggy's role, became a lot bigger when Shaq Moore got hurt. And with him battling all that stuff. And there was time in the summer when you had both of those guys committed where you said, okay, Shaq Moore is DeJuan Harris's backup. He's going to play quite a bit. And then Shaq Moore wound up banged up a lot of the season. When you look at the team that won the national title with Remy Martin being out for a while, Joseph Yesufu's role really grew until Remy Martin came back. And so it helps to have that guy there because things seldom go perfectly. They seldom go entirely according to plan. And even taking injuries out, potential rust and timing out for Marco Jackson, you probably don't want Darren Peterson to handle the ball for all of his 35 minutes. And that's not a knock on him. It's just you'd like to save those legs, right? I think that the strength of this Kansas team is the fact that I think they're going to be pretty good defensively, Nick. I know you believe the same thing. And I think that in addition to that, they're probably going to have some close games, and then the ball is going to be in Darren Peterson's hands in the final couple minutes, and he's maybe the best player in college basketball this year. That's kind of the vision for how this team, I think, quote-unquote, butters their bread. Well, you want Darren Peterson with the ball in the final 2 minutes to be as fresh as possible, to not be operating on entirely tired legs the entire time. And so a guy like this, even if he can buy, let's not say 5 minutes a game, in terms of putting Peterson on the bench, let's say he can buy 5 minutes a game where he's the guy bringing the ball up the court and Peterson can slide off the ball a little bit and not have to expend as much energy and attention on that part of it, then he's worth it. The value is there. And again, that's before accounting for any one of the many things that could go wrong that could see Ngala's role really, sort of boom.
Well, and I also think beyond the tired legs aspect, I mean, you also want to free up Darren Peterson mentally, I would think, right?
Sure.
I mean, you're putting a lot of pressure on him, not just physically with the ball, and if you expect him to have the ball in his hands that much, but also just mentally, right? I mean, the just full exhaustion that could come from being the guy every single possession for 35 plus minutes a game. So absolutely, I think you're talking about a guy that not only could you buy Darren Peterson time away from the ball, which by the way, he may be equally as dangerous out with the ball not in his hands. I think Darren Peterson, in terms of what he could do off the ball and make plays, and certainly no matter whether he has the ball or not, he's going to be drawing a lot of defensive attention. So he could be just as valuable with the ball out of his hands as well. But I think really my thought was the mental aspect of it, right? I mean, giving Darren Peterson an opportunity to maybe only having to focus on, hey, I'm only going to just get the ball to score here, right? I'm not trying to worry about a play or trying to run a set or something. I'm just going to get the ball and do what I do best. I think that could help him as well. So absolutely. I think there's, again, I would say with Marco Jackson, that's my biggest takeaway just immediately is
sure.
It may depend on where Marco Jackson is in terms of how much Ngala is utilized. But as you said, obviously injuries can play a factor as well. So there's still that to consider. I will ask you this as well, Kevin. I think Kansas now up to 13 players. Presumably, I think they are done, right? I mean, I don't expect to add anybody else. That's a scholarship player, I guess would be the way to say it.
I think unless the absolute right, perfect, whatever situation comes along, and we've talked about that on the show, Nick, in terms of what that guy would look like. And I think if you were to draw up sort of the perfect guy to have left, it would be sort of a combo 3-4 guy who, could give Trey White some time off at the 4. I know that they have some other options there, but I think a guy who is maybe a little bit more of a big wing, like a 6'8" guy that can play both of those forward spots would maybe be the one piece that you would look for. But even then, I don't think you take a guy just to take him, right? It has to be somebody that, one, you feel like is giving you an aspect that you don't already have, and two, preferably, and it's impossible to say this because of the portal era, Nick, preferably it's a multi-year guy, right? Like somebody that you can convince to come in and, hey, you're going to help us this year, but it's not going to be as much for you as it will be next year. And so I think that's going to be really hard to find at this point. And so, yeah, I think for the most part, they are done. It's just, hey, if there's that one piece that kind of fits exactly what you're looking for, there is a spot remaining. But I don't think that you break that glass unless that exact perfect situation is there. I don't think you take a 14th person just for the heck of it, just because at this point you are starting to get into sort of that logjam territory. And as we've seen, not just with Kansas, but with other teams, if you got a whole bunch of guys who all think they should be playing, and for whatever reason, the season's not going entirely as planned, that's how those locker rooms can kind of get wrecked. And so you really have to look at somebody who's going to be additive rather than somebody that could potentially, even if it wasn't them specifically, but adding them potentially subtracts from somewhere else.
And speaking of that point, Bill Self also mentioned on Monday that he already feels as though this team is pretty tight knit in terms of chemistry. Yeah. And even Trey White echoed that a little bit as well when he had a chance to speak with him also. So yeah, it's a situation where, hey, maybe too many cooks in the kitchen, too many guys on the court, whatever metaphor you want to use. Maybe Kansas is probably safe where they are. And of course, as we know, and as many Kansas fans know, by the time you get to February and March, if you're not in the circle of trust, you're not going to be playing that much anyways. And that's going to be usually about 8, maybe 9 guys max. So yeah, I think Kansas is pretty set. I will say this, they could technically add another designated exempted player with the situation with the walk-ons and how, because that was kind of where Noah Shelby was. So if they were to add another player who was like in the transfer portal from that, it would not count against the 14-man cap. So I guess that's something to consider as well. But presumably that would be a player that, as you outlined, would be probably not playing in 2025, 2026. So, that level of player. So something to keep in mind also. Sort of a shorter show here, just talking about the Bill Self update again. That happened on Thursday night. We continue to wish him the best, and obviously, if there is seemingly any pertinent updates, we'll mention it. But it doesn't really seem prudent at the moment to sort of dive too deeply into that. Considering we just want to make sure that Coach Self is fully good to go and resting up. So we continue to think about him and hope that does happen. But Kansas also adding Ngala as well, giving us something to talk about also. Kevin, you want to add anything else here before we get out of here with a bit of a quicker show?
No, I think you made a good point in that. I think that this is pretty much putting a bow on this year's roster. I mean, Self said very specifically on Monday, hey, I'd like to have this guy if we could find him, and he's there. So I think, there are guys that obviously if they're sitting out there, hey, you might take a guy, but I don't think that they'll take somebody just because. And I'll be honest with you, Nick, I think they can roll into this season and have a lot of success with the guys that they currently have.
I 100% agree, and certainly looking forward to it. Once again, we're going to be talking plenty more KU football as well over the course of the next coming weeks, so you'll absolutely want to stay subscribed, Apple, Spotify, and over on our YouTube channel for more content there. I really appreciate you if you have done so. Maybe tell a friend, find a friend, and let them know. Share us, and also follow us on social media at PayKCSN for more content over there as well. That's going to do it for today's show. A little bit of a shorter episode on a Friday afternoon. For Kevin Flaherty, I'm Nick Springer, and until next time, we'll talk to you again very soon. See ya.